What is up, guys? It is Quinn here, back with another mock draft. So we're going to hop onto the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. We're going to be doing a PPR mock draft, 12-team league. We're going to be drafting from the number 2 spot, one of my favorite draft positions this year for fantasy. And then the roster setup is going to be pretty normal. One quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end. We're going to be going with 2 flex spots and then 6 bench slots. So that's going to be the setup for this draft. If you guys are watching the video and enjoy the content, do me a huge favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. You guys know the drill, but let's jump right into the draft. With the first pick in this draft, we saw the consensus 101 come off the board, and that is Jonathan Taylor. I think this is something you're going to see in a lot of your drafts. I do think CMC is going to go first overall, in a few leagues. Personally, he is my 101, but I do think you'll see JT get picked there more often. So like I said, CMC is my number 1 overall player, so the fact that I'm getting him at number 2, I think is solid value. I'm just willing to take the player who has the clear highest ceiling. He's been super healthy prior to the last 2 seasons. So maybe, he was super lucky early on in his career. He's been a little bit unlucky as of late. For me, if a player can average 30 points per game, I want that guy at the 101. He's healthy going into the season. Running back position is brutal. Injuries happen. So he is going to be my guy here at the 102. Now going into the second round, let's take a look at who is on the board. So in the first round, we saw a bunch of running backs come off. The big 3 wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp. Makes sense. Travis Kelce went at the 109. Seems to be a little bit early. And then in the second round, a really solid mix of wide receivers and running backs. So unfortunately, it looks like some of the running backs I'd be interested in here, guys like Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, even a guy like Alvin Kamara, it seems like all of them are off the board. So this may be a spot where we go elite tight end. Maybe we see some wide receivers that are available at this spot. So let's take a look at running back right. Guys like Javonte Williams, Ezekiel Elliott. These are players I do not want to be taking at the back end of the second round. Tight end Mark Andrews is available. And then wide receivers, we've got Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins. So right now looking at the draft board, I'm not looking at running back at this price. I'd be looking at tight end or wide receiver. But the way I see it, Mark Andrews is the clear top tight end here. I don't know if he's going to make it back to me at the 302, but the wide receiver position, I'd be cool taking Evans. I'd be cool taking Keenan Allen. I'd be cool to take T. Higgins. So right now, I'm going to lock up Mark Andrews, and then I know there's going to be at least one wide receiver that I like who's going to fall to me here at the 302. So we go with Mark Andrews. Let's see who that team picked, the one that's picking at the 101. So they go Javonte Williams and Josh Allen. Wildly early for Josh Allen in my opinion, but I do think you will see it in your drafts. So we start off McCaffrey, Andrews. We're going to have our pick of those wide receivers. I know in a lot of these drafts, I've drafted pretty heavily Keenan Allen and T. Higgins, so I feel like it's fair that I go after Mike Evans here. Obviously, the news recently about Julio Jones signing, Chris Godwin recovering really well from the ACL, none of that really helps Mike Evans here, but he's still likely to be the top target on one of the best passing attacks in the NFL, led by the GOAT Tom Brady. They're going to have a ton of passing volume. He's going to be a touchdown threat. So I'm cool locking up Mike Evans as our wide receiver 1. And this is why I like picking at that spot. Like a start of McCaffrey, Andrews, and Evans, that's a really solid base to start off your team. So I really like the way this mock is going so far. Now, after we picked Mike Evans, we can see that the third round was dominated by wide receivers. So after Evans, it was Zeke, then it was Keenan Allen. We go to tight end with Kyle Pitts. And then the next, 6, 7 picks? All of them are wide receivers. The fourth round is a pretty solid mix of wide receivers and running backs with Mahomes and George Kittle thrown in there. So let's see who was on the board for us here. We really could go in a variety of different spots. We wouldn't be going tight end. We can go running back. We can go wide receiver. Too early for quarterback. Wide receiver, guys like Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Marquise Brown. Really like all these players at this price. At running back, I really like both Breece Hall and Travis Etienne. So this is honestly kind of a spot that we were in before our last pick. At running back, I only am interested in 2 of these players, whereas at wide receiver, I think you could go in a variety of different directions. So I'd rather lock down my running back because I know there's going to be a wide receiver I like in the 5th round, but hypothetically, my opponent could pick back-to-back running backs. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to go with Breece Hall here. Pretty much a toss-up between Hall and Etienne. I'll favor Breece Hall. I just feel like the Jets offense has a little bit of a higher upside if Zach Wilson does hit. No, he's injured right now, but it seems like he could potentially be ready for week one. So we're going to go with Brees Hall. That starts us off with two running backs, a wide receiver, and a tight end. And then we're going to be looking at the wide receiver position with our next pick. So the team after us picked Antonio Gibson and DK Metcalf at the turn. Gibson, brutal pick back into the fourth round. I like the Metcalf pick, but now here at the 502, we're locked in on that wide receiver position. We're going to be choosing between Courtland Sutton and probably Marquise Brown. For me, Courtland Sutton isn't a guy that I'm going to have on a lot of my teams. I've already drafted a ton of Marquise Brown in these mock drafts, so I'm going to go with Courtland Sutton here. He's fallen. He has the shot to be the wide receiver one for a Russell Wilson-led offense. That's something I want to be a part of, especially in the fifth round. So we're going to lock up Courtland Sutton as our wide receiver two. And so far, I feel like this team is absolutely stacked. McCaffrey, Brees Hall, Mike Evans, Courtland Sutton, and Mark Andrews. I really like the way this has kind of played itself out here. So now we're picking at the 6-11. In the fifth round, we saw a mix of quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers, running backs. In the sixth round, we started to see some quarterbacks come off, and then a bunch of wide receivers were picked. Kind of unfortunate that Rashad Bateman was picked at the 609. He's someone that I definitely would have been interested in here. We also want to remember that the team that's picking at the turn already has a quarterback, so guys like Kyler and Jalen Hurts are available, but we can wait on these players, because they're not going to pick a second quarterback behind Josh Allen. If they did, I'd be wildly surprised. So it looks like we'll be able to get Kyler Murray in the seventh round. So we're going to switch our focus over to the running back and wide receiver positions. I do think you could go A.J. Dillon here. Probably not going to go there. Probably going to be looking at wide receiver with this pick. We've got guys like Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis, I really dislike on underdog, but here in the sixth round, I don't really hate him as a pick. Renfro probably passing on. Ayuk is solid. Devonta Smith is solid. Drake London is solid. You know what? I'm going to draft my first share of Gabriel Davis. I know this is a mock, but I don't think I've picked Davis on one mock, one real draft. He's just been someone I've been fading. But late sixth round, I'm okay with it. I understand the upside of him as the wide receiver two for the Bills. In my rankings, I'd probably favor Drake London here, but let's just get Gabriel Davis. I know he has a lot of fans out there, a lot of people very high, on the Gabriel Davis hype train. So we'll lock him up as our wide receiver three, and then we'll snag Kyler Murray because that team did not take him. So that's going to basically wrap up our starting lineup minus one flex spot. We're looking at one quarterback, one tight end. We have two running backs, and then three wide receivers. So let's see who is available for us here at pick 95, the 8-11 slot. In the 7th and 8th rounds, we saw basically every position come off the board, a couple tight ends thrown in there, some quarterbacks, a lot of wide receivers, and then four running backs. So basically, we could probably be going wide receiver or running back with this pick. We're locked in at quarterback. We're locked in at tight end. We have guys like Miles Sanders and Tony Pollard available. I think both of those guys are strong picks here. At wide receiver, I think Kadarius Toney is a strong pick. I wouldn't hate Claypool. Let's take a look at what's going on with the team picking at the turn, because if we can kind of predict who they're going to go after, I think this is a spot, where we may get some value. So right now, they have three running backs, two wide receivers. I'm guessing they're going to be going with at least one wide receiver with this pick. I doubt they're going to be going with two running backs. So looking at the wide receivers, I prefer Kadarius Toney kind of clearly ahead of some of the other options here. Whereas at running back, I would be cool to take Sanders or Pollard. I highly doubt they go back-to-back running back. And even if they do, I'd still be cool taking Kareem Hunt. So we're going to go with Kadarius Toney and then hope one of these running backs is still available. So Toney's going to be our wide receiver 4. And then we'll see what happens at the running back position. Let's take a look at their selections. What is that? The 8-12. The 901. All right, so they go back-to-back wide receiver, Claypool and Chark. Good thing we did draft Kadarius Toney. I feel good about that pick because now we go to the running backs. I think in the last mock draft I did, I picked Sanders. I think he's a strong value at this price, but I'm going to lock up Tony Pollard, just kind of diversify the portfolio a little bit. So Pollard is going to slot in as our running back 3. And then looking at the rest of the 9th and 10th rounds, just a ton of running backs and a ton of wide receivers come off the board. We see no quarterbacks and no tight ends get drafted in the 9th or 10th round. So honestly, that's not great for us because we're not in the market for a quarterback or a tight end. Those are the positions that have likely fallen. We're going to be looking at running back. We're going to be looking at wide receiver. Currently have 4 wide receivers and 3 running backs. So let's take a look at who is available. Running backs, we have guys like Hines, Gainwell, Spiller. Some interesting options there at wide receiver. Rondell Moore, Devonta Parker. This is kind of the spot with the wide receivers where I don't really love the options, but I see my guy Julio Jones is still here. So I think he's going to be the pick. I really think Julio can be startable on a week-to-week basis. As long as the dude can stay healthy, I still think he has some juice left in the tank. So Julio's going to be the pick here. I feel confident that we're going to have a decent running back available for us in the 11th round because there's only going to be 2 picks, between us here at the 10-11 and then our pick at the 11-02. So let's see what that 101 team picked. They went with Mostert and Van Jefferson. Not a fan of either of those picks, but it'll leave some solid options available for us. Once again, we could go back to the wide receiver position. I just don't think there's a ton of value here. I know some people really like Rondell Moore. I'm just not super interested. I kind of feel like he's buried on this depth chart. Didn't show a ton of flashes in year 1. I don't even know if really the Cardinals know how to use him correctly, and that's kind of an issue. Whereas at running back, like I like Gainwell, I like Spiller, I like Rashad White. I think with this pick, I'll go with Gainwell. Get the running back 2 for the Eagles, have some receiving upside there. Maybe he starts to work into Miles Sanders' kind of workload. It's possible. I liked Gainwell as a draft pick. He's actually the guy that kind of fended off Antonio Gibson at college. He was the reason why Gibson was a main pass catcher. So I'm just a fan of Kenneth Gainwell. Now going into the 12th round, let's see who was picked in the 11th and 12th. The 11th round was filled with running backs and then a lot of second options at the tight end position. And then the 12th round was just totally filled with running backs. So I'm guessing the running back position is not going to be super strong for our next pick here. We already have 4 running backs, so I do feel like we're in a pretty good spot. This is probably a solid opportunity to pound the wide receiver position. We do already have, what is this? We have 5 wide receivers. You can never have too many wideouts. And I talked about how I wasn't a huge fan of Rondell Moore, but here at pick 143 in the 12th round, he's someone I'm totally into at this price. So we're going to snag him to be our wide receiver 6. I really feel like that's a strong pick. And then running backs, like if I was going to pick a guy here, it would be Ty Davis Price, but I do think I could probably get him in the 14th round. We may just want to lock up a wide receiver. MVS and Galladay are kind of just gross picks. I guess MVS would probably be the value pick, but I just can't really imagine ever trusting MVS in my lineup and like actually wanting to start him. So I'm going to go with a young wide receiver. May not be ready for week 1. Let's just throw a dart on Jameson Williams. Oh, wait. Was going to throw a dart on Jameson Williams. I didn't even realize that Jalen Tolbert is ranked as the 80th wide receiver. He should be going way higher than this. He should not be on waivers heading into the season. I mean, right now, he's like the Cowboys wide receiver 2. So this is going to be a very confident Jalen Tolbert pick. It's actually something to keep in mind in the future because I've never seen him down there. So I've basically been passing on him. I kind of just thought he had already been drafted, I guess. So he's going to be the clear pick there. Let's see what happened between our 13th round pick and our 14th round pick. It's going to be a ton of selections in between. Saw a lot of running backs come off the board. My guy Ty Davis Price was picked, a few QB2s, and then some tight end 2 options. So maybe the running back position is going to be looking a little bit weak. We will see. We already are pretty stacked at wide receiver with 7 options. So we're probably going to be looking running back no matter what. I could just go with my guy, Rex Burkhead, Dearness Johnson as the potential RB2 for the Browns if Kareem Hunt gets cut or traded. Maybe we'll shake it up a little bit. I don't know. None of these. Actually, you know what? Let's go with Isaiah Pacheco, making some rumblings out of camp with the Chiefs. Potentially going to be the number 2 running back there. He seems to be outperforming Ronald Jones so far. So, I mean, CEH never seems super locked into the starting role. Having the number 2 option is like the handcuff for the Chiefs. Not the worst pick. So he is going to be the last pick of this draft. Honestly, I feel like this team is looking pretty solid. Let's see what grade they give us. We get a 91, A-. As always, I am not concerned about their grade. Just grades you on how well you followed their ADP. We are not worried on their consensus grade. So looking at our starting lineup, Kyler Murray, love that at quarterback. Then we have CMC and Breece Hall as our running backs. Love Christian McCaffrey as my 101. Brees Hall, I think, was a value in the 4th round. Our wide receivers, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, like both of those players. Don't love Gabriel Davis, but obviously, I'm lower on him than consensus, so he's probably a decent wide receiver 3. Kadarius Toney. I do feel like we have a little bit of a risky kind of wide receiver core. Mike Evans is pretty solid. Sutton, I would say, is a little bit risky. Guys like Davis, Toney, they're not really surefire things, but I do think if they hit, they could have some upside. And then our bench is, did I mention Mark Andrews at tight end? Very strong pick in the late 2nd round. Then our bench, Pollard, Julio, Gainwell, Rondell Moore, Jalen Tolbert, and then Isaiah Pacheco, whatever it is. He is on our team. So that's going to be our starting lineup. Let me know what you guys think about this team down below in the comment section. As always, thank you for stopping by. It's going to wrap it up here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.